Before we talk Paul George and VJ Edgecombe here on today's show, the channel does turn 4 years old today, so I just want to give a big shout out to all the real ones, all the supporters who have been joining us over the years. If you are one of the 23,382 people that are currently subscribed to 76ers now, get in the comments, let me know when you did subscribe. If not, I encourage you to hit that sub button. Sixers content every single day. I promise you, you will not regret it. So we got the latest from ESPN NBA insider Shams Charania on Paul George. If you did not know, Paul George recently had arthroscopic surgery on his left knee after he suffered the injury in an on-court workout during the offseason. Originally, it was reported he was expected to be ready around the start of training camp, or at least he would be reevaluated before the start of training camp. But Shams Charania gave some further insight on ESPN regarding this injury, and I'm not going to lie, it's got me a little bit more concerned than I initially was. Here's what Shams did have to say. I'm told Paul George suffered the injury during an on-court workout last week. Doctors felt like this would be an injury that would linger. That's why they opted for the surgery, to try to prevent that. But Shams says, I am told both sides will be cautious with him. The Sixers want to see Paul George return to that full form, a full form that, unfortunately, we haven't seen at all with Paul George in a Philadelphia 76ers jersey. Hopefully, we can get to see that at some point during the upcoming season. Now, Shams, when he was giving the report on ESPN, really stressed and repeated multiple times that there's going to be a lot of caution involved in this recovery between Philadelphia and Paul George. Both sides want him to be able to start off the season fully healthy, as opposed to last year where he was injured without a hyperextended knee heading into the season, and then, of course, dealt with all different types of injuries throughout the year: groin, adductor, finger injury in there. He was really never 100% healthy. So they want to approach this carefully and make sure that he's not dealing with injuries all throughout the season again. But some of these details that he revealed, that the doctors were worried that this injury could linger, and the fact that they're going to be taking this slow, does have me more worried. Not necessarily that it's a major injury that he's going to re-injure, but more worried that he could miss the start of the regular season if they are going to take it slow. And I'm not saying that's the wrong approach, that they should be rushing him back and making sure he's 100% ready for day one, because you don't want to end up re-injuring Paul George because you did rush him back. But it's just the reality of the situation they're at right now, and just that kind of the concern with a player like Paul George at this point, that he needs more time to recover, that he's already suffered an injury months before the season's even started that could have lingered and caused effects down the line had they not gone the arthroscopic surgery. I know arthroscopic surgery is not major. It's very minor incisions. They just go in and clean stuff up. But I think it's just a little more cause for concern now, because they're going to be taking it slow, and we could get to a point where we get to training camp, they really evaluate Paul George and say, you know what, he's not ready yet. He'll be at a few more weeks. We get through preseason, regular season. There's a chance he's not ready for the start of the regular season. And while I don't want them to rush him back, as I mentioned, you do not want to get off to another slow start this season after the horrific start the Sixers got off to last year. They were 2-11. They had that team or player-only meeting where Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid, and eventually those details ended up getting leaked, right? You don't want to be in a situation like that early in the season where everything is kind of going awry at the very start and the vibes are bad. You need to start off hot to kind of get all those worries out of the system early. And if Paul George isn't 100% ready to go at the start of the year and he's missing time, and if Joel Embiid possibly as well is also missing time at the start of the season, all of a sudden you could be in a position where you're losing games early. And we know how this team often operates, is another 2 weeks here, another 2 weeks there. All of a sudden, we could be getting, a month in the year and Paul George might still not be back. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think Paul George will be back by game one for that regular season opener for Philadelphia. But consider his age, you consider his injury history, especially with what he had to deal with last season. You understand why they want to take things slow, but you also understand that this is something that could linger more than somebody else in this position might be dealing with. And I want to say this too. I've seen some people, and you can have this conversation regarding Joel Embiid as well. People love to get on Paul George or get on Joel Embiid for these injuries. And the Embiid thing is a little bit of a different conversation, but just kind of sucks for Paul George, right? Throughout his entire career, I'm not going to say he's been injured his entire career, but even go back to that broken leg in Indiana. He's had his injuries with OKC, obviously with the Clippers, and now with the Sixers, like a very, very talented player who maybe at this point in his career is falling off just a little bit, but definitely dealt with a lot over the years and still produced a very, very successful NBA career. It just sucks that we haven't been able to see him be his full self in Philly. And I'm not trying to make excuses for his poor play last year, because he definitely wasn't as good as he could have been, even when you consider the injuries he was dealing with, right? There were still times where it's like, dude, what are you doing out there? But I just want to see him this year, with everything that happened last year, get a chance to at least prove himself, right? At least show us if you're actually washed or not. So hopefully he can get healthy by the start of the season and hopefully prove that he still is an all-star caliber player and can help this team win games and do what they thought they were going to do when they gave Paul George that big money just over a year ago now at this point. So hoping and praying that this doesn't continue to get worse. But with the Sixers with Paul George, you just really never seem to know. Today's poll question, you can answer us down in the comment section right now. It'll be that pinned comment. Will we see a bounce back year from Paul George this season? Predict it for me. Sound off with what you think down below. Just give me a simple Y for yes or an N for no. You can expand on your thoughts as well, of course, down in the comment section. Let me know. Will we see a bounce back season next year from Paul George? Now, on some more positive news, VJ Edgecombe did return from that thumb/wrist injury. It kind of evolved really over the course of the week what he was dealing with, but finally did return on Tuesday night against the Washington Wizards in the Sixers' third Summer League game out there in Las Vegas, and definitely showed some signs of rust. Struggled a little bit early on. I mean, look, he's only played one Summer League game before last night up to this point, so it's not like he's some seasoned vet either. He's going to have his struggles, especially in the Summer League, and started off 0 of 7 from the field, did not knock out a field goal in that first half, was kind of fighting through some contact, just couldn't really get in the rhythm, although he was doing some other things well. Ended up in 30 minutes on the night, scoring 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 4-14, but again, started 0 of 7, so he finished 4 of 7 from the field in the second half, and 3 steals as well, showing off that defensive ability. You saw the athleticism. He almost had an insane dunk that he ended up getting fouled on, going to the line in that third quarter. So I liked what I saw from BJ, and of course, it's just great to get him back out there on the floor with some of this negative Paul George injury stuff that we've been hearing over these past few days. I know a lot of people were a little bit worried about VJ Edgecombe as well, and would this be an injury that ends up being worse than normal? But it does seem that the Sixers were just playing it very, very safe with VJ. No reason to rush him out on the floor in Summer League. There's really no point. He'll have his time to progress. He'll have his time to get better and better. Make sure that the injury doesn't turn into anything more severe. And I loved what I saw from him last night as well, responding to that adversity as he has his whole life, really. Coming in off the injury, missing a little bit of time, starting off the game 0 of 7, but never shied away. He didn't get less aggressive, still had his foot on the gas the entire game, and ultimately helped lead the Sixers to their first Summer League win in Vegas. They'll play again tonight on Wednesday against the Dallas Mavericks. No Cooper Flag. We'll see if VJ plays in this one in the back-to-back. I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up sitting him, and then they play him on Friday, which will be the Sixers' final Summer League game. But just good to see him back out there. Good to see him playing well and responding to a poor start. Of course, sometimes we see these young guys, they start off not being able to hit a lot of shots, and they can kind of go downhill a little bit, but he did respond well. And even when he's not shooting the ball well, I thought he did a lot of other things well, which bodes well for what his role could be on the Sixers team. And let's talk about his role really quick for just a second, connecting this back to Paul George. There's a chance that Paul George does miss some time to start the regular season. So could we see a larger role right away for VJ Edgecombe? I think I'd feel comfortable with him playing a good amount of minutes. Now, a lot of unknowns right now really surrounding the Sixers roster and how many minutes and really what his role could be for VJ Edgecombe out of the gate to start the season, because Quentin Grimes at this moment still remains unsigned. I imagine he will be back, but we've got to see that happen first, right? Paul George dealing with his injury. That obviously could open up a lot of minutes and a lot of shots on offense, but Jared McCain as well. Is he ready for the start of the season? Even if he is ready to play, I imagine you ease him back in there a little bit, right? So you got Tyrese Maxey. I don't see Kyle Lowry or Eric Gordon making a huge impact on this rotation, although maybe Eric Gordon will have to play a little bit more than expected to start the season. I think there's a pretty big opportunity for VJ Edgecombe to find some minutes right away and try to make an impact out of the gate. If he does, he could stick in that rotation moving forward. If not, we could see him move to more of a bench role, where I think in his rookie season, the bench role is probably the best for him. I imagine Grimes will start along with George and Oubre and Embiid and Maxey. But who knows? Maybe VJ really is just that good right away, and that two-way ability really does stand out. And then they just kind of have to get VJ to come out there on the floor. But I think he's going to have a little bit of an opportunity here to kind of prove himself and make a name for himself right away, assuming, again, he can stay healthy and he can continue kind of what we saw, especially in that first Summer League game. Really quick, before we hop on out of here, I know some of you guys might not be baseball fans. You might not be Philly fans either if you are baseball fans, but what Kyle Schwarber did in the All-Star game last night, going 3 for 3 in his end-of-game at-bats when the game was tied, and they kind of did this, bat off, I guess, if you will, seeing who could hit the most home runs. Kyle Schwarber, 3 for 3 on home runs to give the NL the lead. It was just electric, and I just wanted to give a shout-out to my boy Schwarber because he was fantastic, and that was a pretty cool moment. Of course, not getting to see him in the actual home run derby. It was really cool to see that moment for him to win the All-Star Game MVP. Maybe a little foreshadowing. All-Star Game MVP to World Series MVP. I don't know. We will see. That'll do it for today's show. If you did enjoy, hopefully that does mean that you enjoyed the content. If you watched the whole thing, you enjoyed what you saw here today. So if you did, I encourage you to hit that sub button for more of this every single day. The best Sixers coverage you will find right here on YouTube.